Randy, I know you've written an article, pre-training camp 53-man roster prediction. Take us through some of the final decisions that you think had to be made and who comes away with those spots on the 53.
Yeah, it's always hard to do these. They're fun. I enjoy doing it. It's hard because you never know what's going to happen in camp. Somebody always ends up, unfortunately, getting injured, and that'll switch things up. But I think the first sign, we've talked in the past about the Browns having good rosters in previous years, but I think the sign of just how good the roster really is right now is if you try to go through and cut it down to 53 players, it's really, really hard because you have to cut out some good players. And so when I went through and I did it, obviously, the quarterbacks worked kind of easy. Running backs weren't too hard. Picked a Metric Felton going third. It's I think, going to come down to him between him and Hassan Hall. Wide receivers, like I mentioned, I feel like 6 of them are locks. But, looking on the offensive and defensive lines, that's where I really seen the most change. Obviously, defensive tackle is going to be really hard. A guy like Tristan Hill, it's going to be hard for him to make the cut. He's a former second-round pick who hadn't really lived up to expectation, but he's a very talented defensive tackle. He's actually capable of playing the 1 or the 3 tech, but he's probably better as a 3 tech, more disruptive. But as long as Maurice Hurst is healthy, I think he gets in over him. But that's a good player that's probably going to be on the outside looking in. And then the offensive line, it was the same thing. Coming into the season last year, Nick Harris was slated to be the starting center. Obviously, he goes down. Ethan Pochik comes in, takes over, one of the top centers in the NFL, so he takes that spot. Well, in this 53-man roster prediction, I don't have Harris making the team simply because he's primarily only a center. Then they drafted Luke Whippler, who can play mostly a center, but he can play guard, so he gives you a little more depth on the bench. So I think it's the depth there is fantastic. Linebacker was another one where, we're not really sure if you're going to go 5 or 6 deep. Sione Takitaki is probably going to start on the physically unable to perform list. So still went 6 there. But I think that, there's going to be some tough cuts, especially when Takitaki comes back. You might have to cut a guy like Tony Fields, who's really a talented player, or even a Matthew Adams, who's a special teams ace. So I think they've done an excellent job just building that depth, and it's going to be tough to cut it down.